Alright, this is episode 1 of this message series, The Blood. And honestly, I don't want to cover that. Today, I want to cover the least amount as possible because I'm going to have entire episodes dedicated to, like each of the specific things I'm saying here. But it's just a very general introduction. It is going to involve a lot of scripture. I do want to have at least one that just doesn't, and it's just an entire empirical analysis regarding more of just, what you might see in the middle, hormones and the endocrine system, and it might involve a lot more neuroscience as well, and really freshen up on what I've been learning. But yeah, episode 1, just intro, basically covering everything, but also a little taste of what's to come. Your blood is your life, and what I mean by that, well, I'll start as simple as, over here, some very poorly drawn substances and what have you. But when there is different things in your blood, that literally is a piece of who you are. And it could, like, to every extent of what that means. Yes, someone who is a completely lost alcoholic that continuously has alcohol in their bloodstream, it is as simple as that. Like, your life is alcohol if there is always alcohol in your blood. But even beyond having addictive issues, and I'm not saying your entire identity is your addiction, but it is a huge aspect of who you are and your very life. However, everyone's blood dictates who they are, whether you want it to or not. Our endocrine system, in reaction, in just normal functionality, is continuously releasing and secreting hormones that run all throughout our whole body and our bloodstream and do very distinct things. And a lot of the time, which again, like, I'll go into the depths in a later episode. Like I might break this down into like 3 or 4, honestly, regarding just how our mind and body, and like your brain is part of your body, but there's a lot of technical processes in our brains that just to regulate everything, but also to fulfill what our conscious or subconscious thought patterns manifest in our own bodies will secrete certain hormones. So if you are someone who, whether you want to or not, like, it's not necessarily an addiction, but if you are trapped, like, it is a type of addiction. Like, and like, again, I'll get so much further into this. Like, these are such broad terms, and I could spend time just yapping about each and every word that I say during this. But the way I see it, if you can't fast from something, you're addicted to it, including your own thought patterns, including your own subconscious thought patterns. Therefore, if you're just a perpetually negative person and project every bit of not okayness with yourself into every situation, the hormones that react then cause you to be stressed, like your cortisol, and like a lot of the times your reproductive hormones that do so much in your body, like testosterone and estrogen, have a huge impact on so many different bodily functions and just the way that you feel. And again, I'll study up and like for myself, and let me just preamble the rest of what I'm about to actually say is all of this. Like, I'm no expert by any means. I will never claim to be. And this is in large part due to the way that the process of actually writing out an essay and trying to say something well actually forces you to learn it more than you otherwise would have. And that's what I'm doing here, as well as if it happens to be helpful or entertaining or whatever else need be. Like, why ever you're watching this is also cool and valid, and I'm not disregarding that. If you are watching it, I have no idea who is, but regardless, whatever the actual cause whether it's intentional or not, the hormones being released into your body do certain things that literally are who you are. Again, like inside or outside of your will. If and perfect crystal clear example of that, go do what I'm doing in front of 100 people. And that's I'm using that as an example because that's one I understand very well. I am not a very sociable person generally, but I'm also terrible at public speaking and giving presentations in class. And it's something I've gotten a lot better at recently, but it's still a skill I'd like to develop indefinitely. And even though I can consciously understand that there is no single thing to actually be afraid of, there is no logical there's no logical outcome that it's not worth it to do what I'm about to do. And that's why you end up doing it anyway. There are a lot of logical things to a certain extent, but if you take it further, it's not. Because we are such social creatures, and the thought of rejection to any extent is a very primal and instinctive psychological truth in all people. And that dictates a lot of our actions and feelings, which again dictates our hormones. So just the situations you're in, again, whether you want it to or not, is in your blood, and that is your life and who you are, because it also dictates everything else. Like there's hormones there's like pre-hormones to release tropic hormones to release the actual hormones. So there's just systems to it. But very randomly, vampires. This is kind of just a literature perspective of looking at this. Blood has always been symbolic of life. Like vampires mean a whole plethora of different things, but mainly they're the undead. They are the manifestation of living without life. And what do? They literally suck your blood out. And again, I'm also going to spend an equal amount of time just diving into the depths of different literature examples and having episodes regarding that. But just briefly covering it, air, wind, and breath is always symbolic of spirit, and blood is always symbolic of life and being alive. And what does blood do? It literally carries your spirit to every part of your body, especially your brain, which is where, if you believe everything is a coincidence and nothing matters and is all happenstance to create all of history of the entire universe, everything up till now, everything after now, and including right now, just happened to be the case, then nothing matters, quite frankly. I didn't transition that well, but I'm trying to segue into it without being so candorous. But, I mentioned before, we're going to be reading some scripture. That there is no meaning without God if you take things to that level of depth, and that is something I not just believe but understand and could testify years of lived experience. So, just given that nice introduction to a few of the aspects, and again, this is going to be a process. I want to learn more. I'm going to spend time reviewing. I haven't taken anatomy and physiology in 2 years. I'm taking a neuroscience course online right now. Took psychology last year. This is all stuff I want to freshen up on and go a lot deeper. But there are some interesting things I've found just from reading all kinds of stuff, especially I just read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I'm reading C.S. Lewis's Four Loves right now, and reading the Bible, and just all kinds of interactions in my life and things I've heard that all kind of just every thought can connect, and that really is a level of understanding of the God that I worship. It doesn't make any sense if you try to make it make sense. Okay, that's a terrible way to think about it. The very fact that it's not really what you want to believe in speaks to the truth of the matter, because I don't worship the God that just appeared to me and made sense because of what I came to understand. This is what I meant to start saying before, how everything just coincidentally been like, if you just learned and all of humans just developed separately and randomly and it was all coincidence, then to believe anything that is learned in any one particular area is nothing more than hormones, neurotransmitters, electrical signals, blood, and just chemical biology that has gotten to this point randomly, and none of it matters. But the very fact that there is spirituality found in like every culture around the world, and they seem to have certain pieces of unified beliefs in truth and love and something that's beyond humanity, like the divine itself, the concept. I'm not talking about the God you think you understand, because the one that exists isn't. God is merely the invisible blanket we throw over what lies beyond, and a huge part of that is the unconscious grasp that we don't understand that connects us all. And an example of what I mean by that, back to literature, when you read something and it resonates so deeply with a unique experience that you had, and it's like you try and explain it to someone and they're like, I don't think they're really talking about that. I mean, hopefully they would be a little more empathetic to it, but again, I'll go more into this when I have all the sources pulled up and such. But a very good book I read by Dr. Jordan Peterson gave light to an example of how collective unconscious knowledge is far more vast than the conscious knowledge of any individual within that collective. And basically what that means, they studied it in chimps and like their behavioral, because it was like a behavioral psychologist that was studying this in I think specifically gorillas, and it was troops of gorillas is like their word for flock, if I remember correctly. However, an example within humans, when you work at a place, let's just say a restaurant, there's so many little tiny tasks that need such random, detail-oriented understandings to be able to do, and the habits of every employee combined there is a greater just landscape of specificities, like complicated. Like if you look at anything purely scientifically with just cutting off every variability and control, it's rather remarkable. Like the fact we're able to abstract what happens neurochemically that developed till some random point in time to have thought and write it in a language, and that someone else can actually take that from, like, it's all, we don't give due justice to just how miraculous the mundane things in life are. However, specifically, the ability to do very detail-oriented tasks throughout, like, a full-time job, like you have multiple people doing different full-time jobs in a place, the understanding of, it's like, oh, I do this, and it's like I never really got like a full explanation as to the specificities as why. Only the boss knew that for that one, but only the garbage man knew that for this thing, and only the guy who comes and delivers that like puts the one thing right in the freezer understands that. And so there's this huge clump of unconscious knowledge to everyone that's greater than any one person's conscious knowledge, and that is found often in all kinds of literature and stories and lived experiences where it resonates and connects and is unified as a collective more than, or like that just is the case. Like there is unification whether whether you're conscious of it or not. And again, that's just an aspect of the God that I worship, is that very, like, it's the God you believe in and the God you don't even believe in, that you're not even aware of. It's beyond, and you can't understand that, possibly. But we'll try, and that's the whole point. This is just effort and process and trying to learn. So, with that introduction being said, we'll start with today's actual scripture, which I think is one of the most important things in the entire Bible, to be honest, which is weird to say because they're all, I don't even know to say equal or like it's all necessary to eventually get to, and the more you get into it, the more you'll realize that to be the case. However, I think this is, I don't even want to say borderline, but essential to understanding. I almost want to say all of Scripture. We'll just stick with Jesus' teachings, because that's also hugely what today is. Your blood is your life, and if you can see at the bottom, who is Jesus? It's kind of gonna be the final thoughts and conclusion of this all. Nevertheless, it's Matthew 13. That is an oopsie. That was on Mark. The parable of the sower. I'll just read the whole thing once I get to it. 2:23. Alright. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea, and great crowds gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat down. And the whole crowd stood on the beach, and he told them many things in parables, saying, A sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell along a path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain. Some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear. Then the disciples came and said to him, Why do you speak to them in parables? And he answered them, To you it has been given to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. For to the one who has, more will be given, and he will have in abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken. This is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. Indeed, in their case the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled that says, You will indeed hear, but never understand. You will indeed see, but never perceive. For the people's heart has grown dull, and with their ears they can barely hear, and with their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and turn, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. Truly I say to you, many prophets and righteous people long to see what you see, and did not see it, and to hear what you hear, and did not hear it. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what has been sown in his heart. This is what was sown along the path. As for what was sown on the rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet he has no root in himself, but endures for a while. And then when a tribulation or persecution arises on account of the word, immediately he falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful. As for the one sown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it. He indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case 100-fold, another 60, another 30. All right. So essentially, he explained it there at the end. But this is something I can really speak to, having been a atheist my entire life. Um, Anytime you've heard someone speaking of God or the Church of the Bible, the way I explain it now, the way I have come to understand it, it's just not you. It's not for you, and yeah, that's how it is. It's nothing more than if you're just scrolling on Netflix, scrolling on YouTube, and it's like, oh, there's Stranger Things, there's all of Christianity. No, you're just keep scrolling by, and it doesn't mean anything. And whether you believe or not, I hope that there's people watching that don't, honestly. I would love to hear your questions. I would love to just engage more and think, like, that's the whole point of this. I want to just think through more. I want to, if possible, grow a community of people that are just trying to learn. And that's all I'm trying to do. But Jesus himself explained that the word of the kingdom of heaven, so just being evangelized to, people speaking, and Jesus himself speaking in parables specifically, if you are not willing to accept it and take hold of it and let it marinate and let it grow, first, if it just doesn't even land, like that types of ground you were saying, Satan literally takes it away. And that's, again, like I've noticed looking back, you don't remember anything you learned about church. It's like, oh, Adam and Eve and Apple and God and whatever. But it's like the parts that matter, the parts that you feel, the parts that you live and experience never take root because you don't let them. And yeah, and he explained all the other situations where with the thorns, I forget the distinction between them. I don't know, the two like middle ones where it's like you believe for a little bit, you understand it, you take it but not well, you don't accept it, but you're hearing it out. And then anything that happens in your life that rises up because, like, regarding the words you have heard, it goes away. You give into the world and not into heaven. So, with that being said, yeah, to wrap everything up, one last little reading. This one is a little shorter. I kind of forgot that one was a decent chunk. This one's only 5 verses. We're going to be going into Luke. Which, by the way, Matthew and Luke were... Matthew is the first book of the Gospels in the New Testament. He's Matthew Levi, the tax collector, among the original 12 disciples who wrote this eyewitness personal account of the life of Jesus. And Luke was a physician who is found throughout. He also wrote Acts, the Acts of the Apostles, which is the first book right after the 4 Gospels in the New Testament. And he accompanies Paul and Barnabas and I forget if other people, but he's on some of those first evangelical missions all throughout the Mediterranean, basically, where all of those things are happening. And he's a medical doctor, and especially if you read Luke, the account literally, it just kind of starts as any academic book would. He's just addressing that this is like from the witnesses he has been close to and a part of everything that he could compile into a straightforward telling of the events that happened. And again, this is a little off topic. I'm not gonna, there's, again, if you accept it, there are millions of people that have defended the authenticity of Scripture beyond a shadow of a doubt who are infinitely smarter than I am. So I'm not going to just try and do that during this little segment right here. But a huge argument for it is just the very fact that these writings were all spread throughout then, and there were other ones and other false messiahs and just a ton of other things happening. Yet they remained the same. And during the time where these were eyewitness accounts, during the living memory of Jesus, they were written in the first century, and there were other books of the Bible that when they actually came to formulate all of the Bible, they discredited them. So why were any of them held on to if they weren't authentic? If, like, they got rid of the ones that weren't, they held on to the ones that were. But regardless, Luke chapter 22, 39 to 40. So tying back, because it was a little sidetracked. I mean, the parable of the sower was a little quicker, but that's essential for any understanding. Like, you have, if you don't accept it, Satan literally takes it away, and it is that simple. But this comes back to the blood being your life, and I mean, there's, again, gonna go into specifics later on of all the other stuff that's super fascinating, why I wanted to talk about this in the first place. But I think just with what, I'm assigning homework, by the way, and come back to that, because I think if you're watching this, take the time to go, like, having read the parable of the sower, go and read Matthew chapters 5 through 7. Each chapter in Matthew's like a page. Like, it's not that much reading. It's like maybe 4 pages. That is the Sermon on the Mount, which again might be something you've heard of before, but if you haven't tried to accept it, you might realize you already have, actually, because there are so many teachings specifically from Jesus that I never realized were from him. Like, you've heard of the golden rule, to treat others the way you want to be treated. That's him. It's, so, again, to accept it, at least, again, hold on to your beliefs. I'm not telling you what to believe in, but accept what he is saying as words spoken from a person, and ask yourself, who is Jesus? I think the Sermon on the Mount is just a great, like, that's his most famous teaching. Like, read that and accept who he is, and then come back. So pause Matthew 5 through 7 and come back. Now, this is much later on in his ministry. The night before, he already understands that he's going to be betrayed. And yeah, he's out praying in the Garden Gethsemane, pretty sure. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but I'll start at the top of the thing. And he came out and went, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. And when he came to the place, he said to them, "Pray that you may not enter into temptation." And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, and knelt down and prayed, saying, "Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will but yours be done." And there appeared to him an angel from heaven, strengthening him. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. So, again, I'll go further into detail. It is a real medical condition where there are levels of stress you can have where your capillaries literally burst and you bleed out of your sweat pores. But an innocent man, which first, come to your own conclusions. Like, think for yourself. That's the whole point. Trying to learn more. That's the whole process of me doing this. I want to learn, and we can all learn from each other. But really just ask yourself, having read the Sermon on the Mount, really just trying to accept it as we learn from the parable of the sower, who is Jesus? And now, as we read this, the night before, or the night he is betrayed, taken into custody, scourged and crucified, he prays that it be taken away from him, that he doesn't have to go through with this. That's what the remove this cup from me, if you can. If you are willing, remove this cup from me. But your wills be done, not my own. And tying back to all that was said before, blood is who you are. It is your very life. And Jesus, knowing what has to happen for the forgiveness of sins for everyone else, for the plan of salvation, for the love and grace of all who follow him, and answer the question, what will you do with Jesus of Nazareth, who is called the Christ, which Pontius Pilate asks to the crowds, and they say, crucify him. He prays out to his Father, and his blood is outside of himself. Yes, even just biologically, we can empathize with that level of stress where your blood is bursting because of how not okay you are. And I can only imagine the hormones and whatever's going on in his body. But I think more just symbolically of that, blood, which carries air, that's one of the main focuses of blood vessels carrying oxygen throughout your body. Our life is holding our spirit. And as he prays, your will be done, not my own, before the hardest thing he's about to do, it's given outside of himself. So really, just to wrap this all up, your blood is your life. And Jesus' blood, when following the will of the Father, is for others. His life is utter selflessness and love for everyone else. So, yeah. Well, in there, I think that was pretty good first episode. I will put together some interesting ones going forward, but I think that's a great place to start. Have a good one.